Hey everybody, Ryan Smith here from Holiday Bliss, and it's time to decorate our staircase garland. And I thought I would take you guys along with me. We're going to just give you a couple tips or tricks today. As you know, we always need to get our house decorated before the 1st of November because we start our client installation. So we're definitely on a marathon here. I'm going to just also share a few of my tips or maybe some of my learnings over the years on what makes a really great garland to decorate. And so let's start there. Actually, I'm gonna flip this phone around and have you take a look. So garland's kind of a personal choice, but I always like something that's gonna be a little bit more full on the staircase and on a mantle for that matter. And I think you've heard me talk in the past videos on how to figure out the measurements of a garland, but most garlands that come pre-lit are going to be 9 feet long. And then what you're going to want to pay attention to is the actual diameter. And that's really from one tip on one side of the garland to the exact same place across the garland. So from this tip down to this tip, this garland is 18 inches. You'll sometimes see it referred to as 9 feet by 12 inches, 9 feet by 14 inches. 9 feet by 18 inches is normally a really good size to use on a staircase or a mantle. Now, if you have a much smaller space or maybe your mantle's not as deep, you might want to consider the 14, but I really don't go any lower than 14 inches in diameter. If you have a really large space, they even do make some garlands like 20 inches in diameter, 22, 24. So keep your eyes open for that. The other thing to talk about is types of mix. So this is a mixed garland. It's got 3 different kinds of garlands. You've got the PVC, which is the most inexpensive and what you normally see as filler in a lot of wreath garlands and trees. And that's what this piece is here. You've got a cashmere or bottle brush longer needle, which is just adding a whole bunch of texture. And then you've got PE, which is really, people call them feel real or real touch. But they're really more of a molded plastic and very popular now on a lot of Christmas trees. That's what you'll typically see on the ends or on the tips of the trees, and you'll see a lot of this PVC as the filler, kind of towards the back or in towards the pole. And the reason I like this mix is because it really provides a good dense garland without even a lot of trim. Now, of course, we always load it up. We're going to put a lot of trim on these garlands, but just something to consider online. This is actually the cashmere or Marshall mix. They're really interchangeable. It's just from 2 different vendors, but the cashmere line or the Marshall mix line are what we sell online, and that's what I'm showing you here. If you want something that's all PE, which again is this molded feel real or real touch tips, more of a plastic or rubber. Again, very high quality. It's going to cost you more. There is a line online called the Catskill, and that does not have any of the PVC or any of these other types of tips on there. It's going to be all PE, and some people, for allergy reasons or otherwise, really prefer to have something that's all PE. That's going to be the Catskill line that we have online. So wanted to just kind of go through that with you all before we get started. The other thing I want to mention, and you'll see some like red ribbon or red bows that I have on this garland, and that's really something that I put in place when I took the garland down last year. And what that helps us with, it helps me remember where we're going to actually connect or tie each of the different loops, so I'm not having to remeasure every single year. And when you have as much garland as I have on the staircase and on the catwalk, it takes a lot of time to figure out the swagging and the looping, and so this ribbon actually helps us make sure that we know exactly where we're going to attach the garland onto the newel post or onto the banister. So just something to keep in mind. Now, of course, make sure you're measuring and marking each piece so that you're not trying to decipher which piece goes on your catwalk or on your staircase, but that's really a good way to make sure that you're not spending a bunch of time the following year trying to figure out how to get the swagging that you've already figured out and calculated once. So wanted to just give you some of those tips and tricks. We're gonna get started here. We'll take you along on the journey. But if you have any questions or if you're looking for this product, please go to holiday-bliss.com Everything is 20% off right now, pre-holiday sale. And in November, we're going to start to see, I'm sure, a lot of people snagging these products. So please take a look, get out there and shop early. Okay, before we get too far along here, I do want to just give you a little bit of guidance on how much garland you actually need given the space that you might have. So if you take a look at this one section here of our banister, right? So from this newel post all the way up to the end here, you're talking about 9.5 feet of actual distance. So, on the diagonal and then straight across, that's about 9.5 feet. And I'm using two 9-foot sections, so 18 feet of garland to create the swags and some of the drooping that we use on the staircase. You'll see that gives me enough to actually take it down the main newel post, and it also gives me a little bit to kind of drape on the one side where I have my outlet. So again, you can just actually attach two of the garlands and you don't even notice. You can't even tell where I've attached those, but you just want to make sure that you're overlapping them a bit on the ends and then using some of these branches to kind of twist and connect them together. And that creates 18 feet of garland. In some cases, like this example up here, there is a 25-foot piece of garland that can be purchased, and I use those where applicable, right? So we've got enough space here where the 25 makes sense. But on a situation like this where we really only have 9 or 10 feet of space, 9 feet is obviously not going to be enough. So you connect the two, and 18 feet was the perfect amount. The other thing I want to make sure we talk about, make sure you're taking the time to really fluff your garland. That's true on trees, that's true on wreaths, that's true on pretty much everything, even stems that we use. But the investment of time up front really makes a difference in what the finished product will look like. So when you take these out of storage, make sure that you're taking the time to really pull each of these apart, making sure that the lights are facing out and not behind. And again, making sure that the garland looks really great before we actually start trimming it. Last thing I'll say, and I get a lot of questions on this, is how do you attach the garland to the actual staircase? I actually use these PVC pieces that are on the garland to attach to the staircase, and I'll zoom in here so you can see what that looks like. There they are. And then I also go along the back once I get the swagging right, and I connect them in the middle as well so that this really is not moving at all. And you won't even see that. People aren't focused on the back of your garland, they're always focused on what's decorated. So again, these aren't moving at all. There's no give at all, and that's exactly what you want so that everything is staying nicely in place. So again, make sure you're taking measurements, make sure that you have enough garland. The worst thing that can happen is that you start at the top and you aren't able to go all the way down, or it looks like you ran out of garland. So take the time up front to really measure, take the time up front to really fluff and make sure your lights are all in good working order. And that makes the decorating process a whole lot easier. I've got my helper Spike working with me today. And so we're going to start the trimming of this garland, and I want to make sure that I kind of start off with the order in which we actually apply different elements or different trim. We're going to start first with our shatterproof ornaments, our large filler ornaments, if you will. So think about things like this. And these are great because they're actually drilled and wired, so you don't have to wire, before you actually get started. They're ready to go. And we're going to use 2 or 3 sizes actually of ornaments, and we're going to get those in first. And I'll take you guys along, and I'll kind of check in as we go. But we're going to start with this. Then we're going to use our larger pine cones, bigger elements, and then from there we'll go into our ribbons. So I'll stop along the way. I'll give you some pointers, but wanted to just kind of get you started with the sequence that we use. And it's always going to be our larger filler ornaments first, and then from there we will go into the next elements. But you can see we've got lots and lots to pick from, and try to just separate out or divvy out how much you think you're going to need so that you don't end up with more ornaments down here, and then you get up to the top and we've got another side of this on the other side that faces the living room, and you're out of ornaments. So one of the things that I do is I'll actually break these out by size and by color, and I'll make sure we just use all the larger 6-inch champagne glitter ornaments first, then we'll move to the white 475, and then we'll go to the 3-inch glitter. That way we are certain that we're not going to run out, and that we have even, consistent trim throughout the garland. Okay, you guys, you can see that we're going ahead and we've got our start on our filler walls here, and I just want to point out how we've zigzagged. I've talked before in other videos about how the human eye does not like to see things in perfectly horizontal lines or perfectly vertical lines. We want this staggering effect all the time. And so you can see we've got one there, then we bounce up, then we bounce down, then we bounce up, then we bounce down. And that's what we're going to continue to do as we add different elements. The other thing I want to mention, when you're applying these ornaments into garlands, it's sometimes easy to think, I'm just going to hang them on the tips out here. But that does not look natural at all. What we want to do is make sure that we're actually nestling those into the garland so they look like they're actually a part and parcel of the garland itself, versus kind of hanging out here all on its own. So this is what not to do, and I'm going to zoom in a minute. And this is what you want to do. So things very tight, very, almost taking that wire and going down to the center part of the garland and of the tip, and making sure that you are attaching there. So I'm going to go ahead and zoom up so you can see, but again, things all the way on the outside. Same with decorating a tree. You want this layered effect. So the deeper you can go in and come out with trim, the more texture, the more dimension you're going to be creating with your design project. So again, wanted to just kind of show you, we've started this, we're going to keep going, and I'll check it in a little bit. What not to do, you're going to want to make sure that you're attaching the wire deep down into the garland as far as you can go, so that this is nestling in and not just kind of hanging out here on the branch like this. You can also see that it's having a hard time kind of staying in place. It's just kind of hanging there like you just threw your decorations up and didn't give it any thought. We want to avoid this, and we want to make sure that we are attaching deep into the garland like this, so that it's actually nestled into the greens. You can find all of our garlands and coordinating wreaths and sometimes coordinating trees at holiday-bliss.com. Remember, our pre-holiday sale is going on right now, 20% off all garlands, wreath, decor, ornament stems, sprays, and berries, and 50% off all of our artificial trees.